If building cars was easy, everybody would do it. And it's not really the bulwark, you know, the big parts, it's the details. Well, I mean, building a car starts with disassembly, right? And there's nothing happy about disassembly. Like, here, this is all the stuff that's not going back for the ride. Right? You know, it takes time to pull this stuff apart. Nothing happy there. And then once you've got it all apart, you have to figure out how everything is going to interrelate with each other and mesh and function and the whole 10 yards. And that's where we are right now with our Miata project. So where we last left off, we had the doghouse basically framed out. Well, now it's complete. It's ready to go. And we dove the motor back in there, and there's tons of room around everything. So we're good there. We just need to finish some detailing and painting under the hood, and that'll be good to go. So we're going from a fuel-injected engine to a carbureted engine. We're going to use a mechanical fuel pump, the original mechanical fuel pump for the engine. So what do we do with fuel delivery system? On the Miata, you got this nice access panel. You don't have to drop the tank to get to the fuel pump and all. So here's the original fuel pump assembly. And what we did here was we cut off the pump. This is normally the feed line to the injector, and this is the return line. So what we did here is we cut the pump off, and we're going to use the return line as our feed line. So it's 5/16, and it'll mate it up perfectly with the rest of our fuel system. So, but it's like little stuff like that, you know? You got to think these things through. So now we can use the stock tank, the stock pickup, the stock everything, and we're good to go. Simple and effective. And of course, we're going to eliminate all of these other lines and just run the single line. And of course, a vent. Little things working through the details. Simple things, like for instance here. And this all takes time. So we showed you how the intake manifold fits. You have to go back a couple of different videos. And this carburetor is like right up against the firewall, and there's nothing here, right? So little things like throttle return spring. What do? So you want to fabricate the simplest, lightest, most easy to access assembly you can. It took a little while. I mean, let's just say it took an hour, hour and a half to come up with this, to figure out all of the different angles. The throttle cables are going to attach here. Where is this going to go? Where is that going to go? There's nothing here to hook springs to. So, I mean, little stuff like this, it takes time. But that's the devil that's in the detail. And when you're building a car, it's little things like that that multiply that 1,000 times, and you've got the process of building a car. Come under the car. So, in doing this swap, we're eliminating a thing called the PPF, which ties the center section of the rear end, right? It's like the pinion support. See, the rear end hangs from a couple of bushings, okay? The PPF is a girder that runs from here to the transmission on the stock engine. Well, obviously, we have no way to use that anymore. So we need a way to support the pinion. Okay. Doing some research, there were kits. They range in the $300 to $400 range. PPF eliminators. But now, in the spirit of everything we do on this channel, is we try to do things as cheaply as possible. We try to do things as simply as possible. We try to do things the way a guy working out of his house, in his backyard, or on the gravel pad on the side of his house, things that he can do. So, we laid under this car. I laid under this car for a few hours, okay? And what I did was, I took with me all different shapes and things and stuff, okay? And I laid under here for a couple of hours, and I doped it out, and I doped everything out. And I saw the way their kits are made, and it looked a little too complicated. It was like, why are you going through all of this when ultimately you're just tying it together with a link, which is about the length and the thickness of one of the original PPF bolts. So I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I took all my different shapes and my pieces of metal, and I fit it in this way and fit it in this way, and then finally, it just, all of a sudden, it just clicked. You take a piece of angle iron like this, right here, okay, and can you come under here and see this? So, if you take this piece of angle iron and you insert it like so, right there, and you weld it, which I'm going to do next, right? You weld it across this cross member. Well, now you can run the bolts. Where is it? You can run this bolt straight up through, put a nut on the other side, and boom, there's the pinion support. It really could not possibly be any simpler or cheaper or easier than that. But it took a little while of really doping things out and figuring out where it's got to lay, getting the right pinion angle. I just need to weld it, nut it, and bolt it, and she's dead nuts. All right. It's time consuming. So now we're on to the wiring. A friend of mine dropped off this box of random wiring harness bits. It's one of them universal kits, you know, with the fuse box and all of that. I have no idea who makes this one, but I'm not going to use the whole kit, but I definitely need to merge all of my taillight wiring with my headlight wiring and all of that. So picking through it a little at a time. One of my pet peeves with this car was the steering wheel. I looked at the car, you know, I love this car, right? I look at the car and see, you know, like that British Italian sort of 60s type of thing, you know what I mean? And I've got that vision in my head. But one of the things that drove me crazy with this car was the frickin' steering wheel. I couldn't handle it. Every time I would look at the car, I'd be like, ooh, that's cool. Ooh, that's kind of like sexy, right? And then I see this goppy giant steering wheel with the airbag. I can't handle this. So we did this. And you say, okay, easy enough, just get a universal steering wheel kit. Nah, I didn't want, they don't make any wheels for these cars that I liked. I like these wheels. So what I did was, they make adapters to go from the grain type of steering wheel to the Miata spline. So they're like $80, right? That's a lot of scuttles. Yeah, I could probably call it up and score them and say, yeah, I'm doing a YouTube project car, send me one, but you guys can't do that. So I did what you guys would do. I cut the center out of the original steering wheel, the spline part of it, and welded it to the back of this steering wheel. So now we have a very cool retro British type of deal, you know, with the stock spline. And of course I did away with all of the stuff under here, so just to simplify it, it's starting to get that 60s kind of vibe to it, which is what I'm really looking for. This is where the dashboard is going to sit, and like I showed you the last time around, this is where a switch panel is going to be. This is where our gauges are going to be. This is all going to get covered with like a vinyl material that'll match this. So this will all disappear, and then we'll use a regular, carpet on the on the floor of the car. But yeah, that's what we're doing with this thing. We're running through it, and we're simplifying, and we're refining, and we're making all of these systems work. And I said to myself when I started this, I says, if I can get this thing running within like a year, I'll be happy. But I'll tell you the truth, I'm really into this car. Like, I love this project. I love the idea of it. I love everything about it. And now I'm jazzed that it's kind of like I put other things, that I should be working on the back burner. I want this thing running by the end of June. It's like July 4th is my, mental drop dead date for it. So that's what I'm hustling towards. But yeah, let me give you an update on this, show you where we are with this thing, and go away because I want to work somewhere. I'll see you tomorrow.